Welcome to my channel. Today will be an unusual video for me because I want to talk about art supplies and coloring books which I regret buying. It will be a short video because I am proud that during my very long coloring journey I was very careful and I thought about each of my purchases. With coloring books I prefer to watch flip-through videos, thanks to those who film such flip-through videos. With art supplies, of course, I try to watch reviews, but with art supplies, I must confess that quite often I do spontaneous purchase when I just want to cheer myself up, and I just want to purchase something in the offline shop when I already visited it, and sometimes I even fall in love with the package. So well, let's start. Here I have my list. Don't be afraid, I never regretted my dark fairy tales, and it wasn't a purchase, it was a gift. But here I have a good example about my first regret, and it's Derwent graphitints. You know that I usually love Derwent products, and I have also a set of Derwent graphitint pencils. They are unusual. They definitely have limited usage for coloring books because of their properties, because of their palette. But as I recently started to use pencils more often, especially in urban Anna books, I decided that maybe I also need pens. When I wanted them, I actually hoped that their colors will be similar to the pigment which you can get from graphitint when you take pigment with wet brush directly from pencil core. These more clean colors. And of course it wasn't true. If a person just look at the package, I think that person immediately will fall in love with those colors because many of them look vibrant and in the same time like with muted granulation, very nice. But in real life they are not matching these colors. I would say that this package is slightly deceptive. Colors are similar but definitely not like this, not like this, not like this. Yes, I was familiar with color palette, so for me it wasn't such a big surprise, but still for other person it would be a big disappointment. So apart from this not very great palette, because such color I wouldn't include in the set. My biggest problem is that even if I can use this for backgrounds, it's very difficult to use something on top of them. It's unpredictable. In some of the books, I can use them normally. In some of the books, when I put graphitints first and then when I try to work on top of them with pencils, starts very strange chemical reaction. And here we don't see this graphite shining. They look relatively matte. But in other books, because that's almost watercolor paper, totally different from what we have in the books. That's an example. I started to do the first layer with graphitint and it already started to show a little bit of this shining. Even if I dissolved that paint nicely with water, so it's not like I put excessive amount of pigment. No, they were dissolved nicely. The problem started when I wanted to increase shadows in several areas. I tried to use pencils and I got this, maybe you can't see, but there is awful graphite shining, and pencils, they didn't work, like polychromos don't work in this book. So well, it was a big, strange surprise. Now I definitely will be more cautious about using this because sometimes you get nice results, sometimes this strange and definitely unpleasant shining. Now I don't know what pencils I can use on top, and before each of the using them I need to do separate pencil test. Honestly, for their cost, I don't think that it was worth purchasing them. Pencils I can recommend. They are definitely not very versatile. You can use them in limited amount of books, but they are not bad. About this product, I have a big doubts. Well, maybe next let's talk about books. As I said already, I have very small pile of books which I regret buying. Yes, there are books where I constantly moan about paper, but I still continue coloring in them. Books which I truly regret buying. I have only several of them. The first one, I just bring it to laugh because it was probably the second book which I ever purchased when I discovered adult coloring many years ago. Of course, I ran into our local bookstores and I discovered that we had nothing. Maybe only the Garden by Jasmine Beckett, no, Johanna Basford, sure. Garden by Johanna Basford, and even so many years ago I wasn't very inspired. And the only book which I managed to purchase, it was this book about Sherlock. And of course at that moment the TV series were extremely popular, so I was crazy happy. Only when I brought it home I realized that I have no art supplies, no skills to color in it. So this book has all the worst properties. Paper feels quite thick, yes, but it doesn't work with watercolor. Look at this awful dirt and dots, and it also bleeds through. It was very disappointing, and also it taught me to look closer at flip through before you want to purchase something, especially with portraits, because portraits are intimidated by themselves. But when you have such stupid line art, those ugly clouds with thick lines, those stupid shadows on faces, let me show you somewhere on bigger face. It's impossible to color. Even here, all these lines, you will spend huge amount of time just masking them instead of thinking about where to put shadows. So I don't think that it's a good thing to turn screenshots into line art with such amount of details. Well, so I still dearly love the TV series, but after the first attempt to do something 6 or 7 years ago, I just closed it, and I still don't know if one day I will be able to find a way to color in it, or I just can forget about this one. It's not a regret, it's just funny memory how my hobby started. Next I have this one. Well, I do love the art, but I won't be coloring it, so no comments about all my Rita Berman books. And I definitely regretted that I purchased it and then I almost was ready to start coloring in it. And then I was disappointed in Rita Berman. And next I have only 2 of mythographic books, which I think that I didn't have to purchase. That's where was the moment when all mythographic books, they were almost into my list of purchasing each and every new book in the series. I loved them, I was satisfied with their quality, but then after I purchased the first book of Alessandra Fusi, I didn't check the flip through for this one, and only when I started to color her books I realized that her style, her amount of details, this strange collages, that it's not what I prefer to color. It's sometimes difficult to tell from the flip through, yes, because from the first glance it looks nice, kind of forest, some buildings, the moose. Okay, you think you can color it. Only when you grab your pencil you realize that first you can't actually color each and every detail, because maybe it was created in big scale and then resized. It's very difficult to find what you can use for coloring. even pencils can't color such things, and I don't like to color with fine liners. They are the only things which can go into such work. I think that artist has to color at least one or two of her works. The same thing here. From the first side it looks okay, but then only in the process when I colored for other book I realized that I don't like and I don't want any more books from Alessandra Fusi. I still colored something even in this one, and I maybe will color a couple of two other pictures because not all of them are so extremely detailed. Some of them has better pictures, even if I still think that such excessive lines, they are only confusing and they only take from the beauty of the picture. But okay, I can turn them into splashes. So some of the pictures are not bad. I don't regret it completely, but I totally was able to select something from the same series but from the different artist. And the same it was about Illusion. I thought, oh, cute, very cool, nice artist, nice new artist in this series, nice cover. I definitely will be able to color it. I think that for this one I even didn't saw a flip through. And again, pictures are not bad, but also not the greatest. So it was just excessive consuming. You definitely don't need each and every new book in the series. I know that it's a good support for the publisher, and I'm extremely happy that they continue to do more books here. And unfortunately, for me this book was a moment when I simply stopped to purchase any new books, and now I try to be much more considerate. First, I decided that I need to color at least 1 or 2 pages in all of my existing books in Mythographic which I have before I will consider purchasing other books. And definitely I decided that I will stay with Bank, with other artists, but with Diego Weisberg I don't want any more of his books. So now I will be much more careful when I look at Mythographic. First, many of the pictures in this series, many books, they started to repeat one another. Yes, it's quite easy to explain because they publish them very frequently, and it's great that they still hold the market. But sometimes the quality of art slightly suffers, and sometimes simply the artist may be not what is suitable for your taste. For other people it could be maybe a much more inspirational book. I have them, I definitely will try to color in them one day. They are just not the best, and if you ask me, look at other books in Mythographic series. Next, maybe let's talk about metallic watercolors. When I started my coloring journey, I got as a present set of Kuretake Koloro golden watercolors, and they are amazing. I still consider them as the best golden watercolors. And I also started to look into Koloro metallic watercolors. We didn't have anything similar into our local shops. We had only watercolor of bronze, gold and silver. So of course all those beautiful Koloro metallic paints, and with their beautiful marketing campaign, they were very attractive and I wanted all of them. But then I started to realize that maybe in coloring books they are not very helpful. Those pens, they are extremely attractive. They look like tiny gemstones. But when you start to apply them, or when I start to apply them, okay, let's talk about my experience. On the paper, they don't look so attractive. They're shining, you can see only from maybe side. Quite often on white paper many colors look muted or dirty. Look at this one, and how beautiful is this deep purple in the pen. And again, that's a sketchbook with very good paper. Look at this difference. Do you see anything attractive here? It's not all Kolorowanka watercolors. I have a set of their paints where the base is silver with a small addition of colors. So you have pearl blue, pearl green, silver pink. They are much better. Those colorful pens, that's where my disappointment started. Their metal colors like gold, bronze, metal orange, they are great. Those duochrome and other metal shades, well, look, it was so attractive here and it's so dirty on the paper. The only way I ever managed to use them when I put regular watercolor, imagine maybe dark purple, dark violet or indigo, and then you drop a little bit of metal paint, then maybe they will be at least a little bit visible. But that's another example. Look, that's beautiful color. It was extremely attractive on the website when I purchased it. So what do I need to do to get such a vibrant, shiny green color? I remember my huge disappointment. But then on the market appeared Paul Rubens metal watercolors. I wasn't able to purchase their set, and just accidentally on Amazon I saw another set of watercolors. At that moment, I was sure that any metal watercolors on white paper, they look awful. Only on black paper they can show their property. But no, I purchased this relatively cheap set of watercolors and it was absolutely different experience. Even from this swatch, you can see that on white paper everything looks vibrant, shiny and exactly like I wanted them. How they look in pen, they look on paper. So now if I need metal watercolors, I use this set. I don't know if it's still available. I purchased it several years ago, but this one I recommend with all my heart. With Koloro, I was extremely unlucky and now I still admire them in shop. Sometimes I even tempted because, you know, when you visit art store and all of them are laying on the shelves, they are so attractive like candies or gemstones. But then I remember the difference. Once again, look at this one and this one. And I tell myself, no, you don't need them. Please tell me if you have different experience with color or maybe I am unlucky. I don't know. All of them I purchased from Jackson's Art, so they are not fake. But I just don't work with them. My next disappointment was white gouache paint by Royal Talents. I'm a big fan of Royal Talents. I think that it's a great manufacturer. I love their watercolor paints, even with student grade of Van Gogh watercolors and with their professional range of Rembrandt paints. Everything is great. And one day I decided that I need white gouache. It was a day when I thought about masking black lines in my books, thing which I consider quite often, and before I mostly used my cheap Ukrainian gouache. It really very cheap. It has amazing opacity, it has vibrant white color, but the only smallest downside is that when you put it on paper, it has quite a rough texture, so it's thick, and when you apply it, texture is thick. And to color on top of it with pencils, not very easy, especially with soft pencils like Prismacolor. They don't behave well, you can't work with small details. So I decided that I need something more professional with more delicate texture. I purchased this one, and Until now, I can't get normal white color from it. Every time I open a tube, I have this yellow liquid. It's similar to opening an oil paint. You know that when you open an oil paint, it has oil binder, and yes, that's, you can totally explain every time, and it was already many times when I wanted to start working with it. I can get only off-white or cream or simply dirty yellowish color from this tube. And never nice white color. Other things that it's still not possible to work on top of it with pencils, and it's not very opaque, but what is bothering me is that lack of white color, because all I can get is off-white. And this one, it's even the best example because I used it yesterday, so I deleted this first yellow layer. Actually, that's why I decided to film this video about disappointing art supplies. And if I open it in a week or two, this yellow liquid on top, it will even bigger. So this binding, it appears and appears. Maybe it's just a bad tube. You can see it also here, this dirty yellow, which you absolutely don't need into your crispy white paint. Maybe it was a bad tube, but I don't know. I purchased it locally, so it wasn't frozen, it wasn't spoiled during delivery. Well, and because of this first unfortunate experience, I now very hesitant to purchase other colors from the same Royal Talents. So I guess that if I need more gouache colors, I will stay with my Rosa. I also love Polish gouache paints, and with Royal Talents, with this white, well, of course it was cheap purchase, so nothing very terrible, but I just hope that it will help me to mask lines, but still no good results. My next unlucky purchase, it's acrylic markers. Here I have one of Arctic's sets. I think that it was the first one which they put on the market. Maybe now their products are much better, so if you have good experience with them, I'm very happy for you. Again, I'm talking about this particular set, which I purchased because I actually loved products by Arctic's, and I thought that maybe markers also will be good. I already had Tule art markers, and I was very unhappy with them also. When I purchased Tule arts, of course, the first thing which attracted me, it was their colors. They have quite opaque pigment mostly. They declare to have nice range of colors, but with these markers I had two huge problems. The first one, it's in my set of skin colors, not this one, I had also green and skin color set. Part of the markers had colors which were totally different from what I expected them from their included palette or from their caps, and I already did such video about this disappointment experience, so you can get, for example, like this marker, and to get something like very vibrant red or even brown. Okay, I decided that Tule markers maybe not for me because of this strange quality and because of their tips. That's markers with hard plastic tip. It's good if you need to do some very delicate work. That's exactly where I need them, because I don't color by numbers where you need to cover big areas. I mostly wanted them to mask lines again. But this tip, if you don't use it every day, it clogs very easily, and I use it, then in a month I again need this color, and of course it doesn't work. So I spent an hour trying to rinse it, to clean it. Even if I cleaned it after my last usage, it's still clogged, and it's frustrating that instead of hour of coloring, I spend time to clean marker to just do very small work. So now, because I still have them and some of them has really nice colors, I especially love green colors. They have very nice green shades and it's unusual. Usually green colors in acrylic markers are terribly unnatural. These markers, they had nice colors, and what I do now, even if their tips are totally clogged and I can't use them, I still can drop a little bit of paint from this area and I apply it on my pictures with brush. But at least colors are good. So this I sometimes use. It still was a waste of money because you can get acrylic paints or gouache, and well, it was much more reasonable purchase. So with this one, my problem is tips. I decided that if Arctics has totally different brush tip, well, that's exactly what I need. But with these markers, I also didn't have much luck. My first problem was that part of them weren't as opaque as I expected. Pigment in these markers was much more opaque. With this, several colors didn't cover black lines. With the first layer, you need to apply several. Then it was very difficult, even with such brush, to do a normal smooth background. Look at this example. Of course, I tried to apply it very carefully, but still, sometimes you change direction of pencil strokes. Sometimes you just need to apply second layer, and in all such areas, maybe now it's not so visible, but in real life I can see difference between that's one layer, that's two layers, and it already has different color, different texture, and many areas where I overlapped with the second layer, there are still lines. Again, maybe on the screen it doesn't look very terrible, but I think that more accurate work I could do with simple paint, brush, and without marker. And third problem, apart from applying on paper and about opacity, is that many markers very quickly stopped to work on the tip. If you need to do a very thin line, it happened with lightest colors. I just don't want to show them because you won't see white on the white. So when I tried to apply my white with only with tip, it was very quickly dried and you can resuscitate it, so to make it work again. And many colors I can color only with this central part, like with such big movement. This one, it's still working. I simply used it yesterday, but pigment also started to feel more watery, less opaque and more similar to water-based markers like koi. Maybe again I was unlucky because it was one of the first sets which they produced. Now I know that they have much bigger sets, but obviously after first unlucky experience where I thought that colors were quite attractive, but green colors, that's what I never use because that's not my favorite colors, and other didn't work properly. I think that I definitely won't be purchasing any Arctics acrylic markers. My only hope is this set which I recently received as a gift from my friend, maybe this Chinese brand. Maybe they will save me. They also have brush, because I promised myself that never again I will purchase such tip which is clogging very easily. I know that I use them very often, even once a week. It's still enough for them to be dried and to have problems with the tip. So if I purchase acrylic markers in the future, I definitely will be purchasing only the brush tip, and I hope that maybe quality of this pigment, these inks, and quality of the tip will be better. With Arctics and with Tule art, I think that our story is finished. I don't know if you can see it, but they all look quite watery, no opacity at all. Look at this one. Yes, it creates beautiful watercolor effect, but that's definitely not what I expect from acrylic marker and such quality of pigment of acrylic ink. It's totally unhelpful when you need to mask something. Next disappointing purchase is felt tip pens. I previously had this set of Ohuhu. It's water-based markers. They have fine liner and brush tips, and it's a good set. It's a good example, and I was happy with this set. I don't use them very frequently, but they are good if you want to intensify color a little bit, like you did something yellow and you want to make it slightly more orange. You think that paper may be already burnished, you can't apply more pencils, but you can change color a little bit with felt tip pen, and they were great. The only problem which I had with them is that many of the fine liners were dried. Even if since I purchased them, I store them horizontally, so it's not problem of storage, but that's okay. I don't use fine liners very frequently. But my set ran out of lightest colors like this one or this one after I used them. Those colors, and it also has a lot of dark and intense colors. I wanted to try something more natural. That's colors which I mostly use, light peach, light brown, cream colors. So I simply decided that I want something else. This set still I consider as a good one. But when I looked at Amazon, there weren't bigger sets of Ohuhu. Maybe they weren't available, or I just went to another link and I found similar set. Honestly, I thought at the moment that all those markers, they are all Chinese products, and the biggest difference is that some of them are branded, other familiar brand names, and some of them are totally no names. I thought that quality will be the same. So when I found this set of 132 colors, and especially because so many of them had pastel shades, I thought that they will be similar. Sorry, but no. The biggest advantage of this one is that they almost never bleed through, even on average paper. Sometimes on thin paper, but on average paper they were okay, and when you put them on top of pencils they don't bleed through. These markers, they are much more aggressive. They always bleed through, and as usual, the colors which you have on this caps, they are not exactly what you have inside, so it's simply quite difficult to navigate with them. Here the match was perfect. I knew that if I have this color on the paper it will look the same, so much better work with Ohuhu. With these markers the difference was bigger, and it was extremely difficult to find what color you need. So when I wanted pale pink, I simply had to test all of them. They don't have like names, these have numbers, so you can do a swatch palette. Here problem is that you can't mark them. They are not bad, but that definitely was a purchase very spontaneous when I just wanted something to play. I still use them from time to time because several colors are nice. Mostly if I use, sorry, I don't know why I can't put all of them on the screen. I mostly use this side. Still very carefully because they bleed through, they can change pencil pigment, so chemical reaction is also unexpected. It's not a totally unusable purchase, but that's what I definitely was able to live without those markers and to purchase something better. So now in the future I will definitely look at Ohuhu brand and not to the no name, even if before I thought that the quality is the same and they just put the name but don't check quality. My bad, because definitely Ohuhu I can recommend if you need felt tip pens. I just hope that one day there will be more sets where you don't need to purchase all those colors, which I never use, like this one or this one. I can simply give them to the children. And more normal colors, please do sets of such color palettes, and I'm sure that they will be popular. That's my only regret. Next, I realized that I am totally not a person for gel pens. In my search of various art supplies which can help me to mask black lines, I thought about gel pens because I saw that people use gel pens and some of them have indeed opaque pigment. So on Amazon I selected this set because of the colors. It has earthy and green colors, some of them supposed to be opaque and some of them supposed to be metal. It's not a bad set when you have where to use them. I realized that just for my style of coloring, where I tend to do realistic pictures, not much of ornaments, of mandala, I simply don't know where to use them. The only picture where I actually used them, it was here. You can see the shiny frame. I used two types, that's shiny brown here and metal. I realized that I simply dislike that even after short work, the half of the pen was gone. Some of the pens also clogged very often, so I still have half of the pen, but it's not working. I know that there are various techniques that you could put something inside to blow it, but I just don't want to waste my time. The good side of this set, it was that it has spare refills, so that's helpful, and that's why I still think that it's a good set. If you need gel pens, it's not a bad brand. If you use them frequently, maybe they won't dry out, but I still have some of them pens which I considered quite helpful because they have this obviously opaque pigment, nice colors, but these colors, they don't work anymore, and it's impossible to apply two layers to get nice opacity. So by itself it's not a bad product. Just I realized that gel pens are not helpful in my work. I can't use them on top of watercolor or on top of gouache because pigment of paint will clog tip, so it's dangerous for the pen. And on clean paper I don't color any pictures where I can use them. Maybe I need to check all of them, and there are some books where nice beautiful image is surrounded by ornamental frame. Maybe I finally will find a way to use them. Several colors are still working, and I am sure that those refills will be working. So I simply, after this first slightly disappointing experience, I put them on the shelf and I forgot them for a year or two. Maybe now it's time to check them, to sort which pens are still working, to find maybe a couple of projects where I can use them on the frames, and then it will be the end of my story with gel pens. Actually, a very unlucky person with gel pens, especially when it has nice tip. The only pen which survives with me is the Jelly Roll. All other brands, they either stop working or they don't give me the opacity which I want. So I need to accept that I am not a gel pen person. I also was surprised that pens in the same set, it's like they have slightly different thickness of the tip, because with this one I can do relatively nice coverage and it's pleasant. It's also shiny. And another pen from the same set, it produces much thinner line, so it's good for line art, but it's impossible to cover completely even the smallest object. You definitely can see pen strokes. So very different quality. But okay, I promise myself that I will sort such lovely shiny colors, because they are indeed quite lovely, and at least for them I will try to find a way where to use them. And my last regret is color pencils. I gifted them this huge beautiful box, but still it's my most hated set of colored pencils. When I realized that I want to try colors, I already owned several Chinese pencils. Some of them I liked more, like I absolutely love my Sucolor pencils. Sucolors are very good example of Chinese pencils. You can find them also under other brands like Brad Fanners. So I thought that these pencils will be quite similar. I also have Artisan, I love them. I loved the old edition of Star Joy pencils. So before this, I had very good experience with Chinese pencils. I totally considered them as a good, like, working horse, when you don't need to spend your fancy Prismacolors, Polychromos, or even more precious pencils for something like background, when you simply need nice juicy colors, maybe to apply a couple of layers. Chinese pencils are very helpful. And of course I was attracted to the package. Silly girl who purchased pencils from the beauty of the box. That's me. And also I was attracted to the huge color palette. I thought that with such variety of colors, all my regrets about spending the whole pencil on the background on the one page, it will be gone and I will be able to use them. But since that moment, I did a couple of pages and I absolutely have no idea how other people use them. Maybe I'm just one unlucky person with hands from arms from my ass, or maybe I just have a bad bundle of pencils, because I saw people who praise them, who use them, and I have no idea how. First, I sorted them, I sharpened them. There were several problems with pencils, couple of colors kept breaking, but it wasn't very disappointing, because with such variety of colors I thought, okay, couple of pencils broken, constantly keep breaking, I will replace them with similar colors. Even if it's strange when you get pencils not open stock, when you get them in huge bulky metal box, they don't have to be broken constantly. So it's a problem of quality control and manufacturing. But my biggest problem with them is their layering. My usual way of working is to apply maybe 2 layers, so I don't layer much. I don't require a lot of delicate transparent colors. I apply usually a couple of colors. I start from the light color and then I apply darker color to create gradient. If I need, maybe sometimes I apply 3rd layer with the darkest color. So quite simple technique, and usually it works with all those cheap Chinese pencils, nothing special. With colors I realized that I can't layer even 2 colors, even close colors like cream and peach. I did this small work and it took me maybe 3 times longer comparing to the same time which I could use with other my brands, because they didn't want to layer, they didn't want to blend. Even when I blended cream with peach or red with dark red, they were very smooth, very waxy. It was feeling like you're working on the glass. Imagine working with pencil on the glass surface. You will get nothing. And okay, so I managed to cover paper. Yes, they are vibrant, so no problems with pigmentation. Problem is layering. When I managed to apply a couple of colors, I decided that between this red and dark red, I want to increase shadows between petals. Normally, it would be quite easy work to grab black, to grab dark red, dark brown, dark gray, and to go. And it didn't apply it at all. I simply had to grab, I don't remember, Prismacolor probably, some of 90% gray colors, so I deepened shadows on the roses to save my work. Those pencils, they weren't able to provide me with nice contrast with dark colors. You have dark colors in the set, but if you put them on top of the light color, they don't give you any intensity. You need to transform your usual way of coloring. Maybe if I start to work on the petal by applying first very dark, almost black red, and then moving into light color, maybe it will work, but that's unusual for me. And another thing, I had to press quite hard. So after this tiny work, my head was hurting from the head and the full arm was hurting. With my habit to color every day, well, I definitely want to harm my hand and arm, because I felt this pain the next day when I was at work and I was working on the keyboard. Well, anyway, that was attempt which really disappointed me. And believe me, that's very good paper. It's old edition of Escape. Here paper is absolutely great. I love to use many other cheap brands, worked very well on this paper, so it's not paper problem. Another absolutely terrible attempt I had in this Korean book. It also has very good paper, and I worked on it with other Chinese pencils. I tried to do very simple work. What can be easier than to do gray and gray beige stones? You just need two colors, lighter and darker, no complicated shading, and they didn't give pigment at all. I thought that, okay, I will do this work with something cheap. I don't want to spend Prismacolors here and then to replace all my cool gray colors. No, they didn't work at all. So I totally stopped to work them. Maybe one day, once again, I will have inspiration, because every time I watch videos where people praise them, I feel so surprised that maybe I need indeed to try different technique working from dark into light, or maybe not all of those colors are so bad. So of course I will give them a second chance, but for now it's absolutely stupid to have such a huge set laying on the shelf without any use. My biggest regret is that instead of this one I didn't purchase a couple of Arteza sets when they were available with all colors and even with spare pencils. Unfortunately, they are out of market, and Arteza were great pencils. I loved how they layered, how they blended. So, not all Chinese pencils are the same, and colors are still the huge mystery for me. Well, maybe one day we will make friends, but for now they are probably my biggest regret. Well, when I looked at my list of regretted purchases, I would say that it's not that long. I am not very disappointed at myself, especially considering that it was purchases mostly in the beginning of my coloring journey when I was less experienced. So maybe one day I will even put to use some of these items. And of course I will be happy to hear your advice. Maybe if something from this video could be actually used, you know how to use them properly, I will be happy to hear your opinions. Or also I will be happy to hear about your regrets, because it's normal to purchase something to be to be in love with the product and then to realize that maybe that's not exactly what you need something slightly different instead. Well, thank you for spending time with me, and until the next videos.